There's a sense of melancholy for me, but it's also quite a lovely creative feeling of peace and being able to have time to contemplate. So it's a very peaceful spot and probably a very healing spot. What I was interested in is working with the idea of institution, loss of one's equilibrium and finding oneself again. And so I collected a lot of old furniture from around this area, discarded furniture, and then using grey blanket, I covered the objects in grey blanket because they sort of symbolised to me institution. And I was trying to catch the essence, get the essence of that melancholy and that space between losing oneself in something and then finding oneself back. And I was exploring that whole idea of the taboo of madness, because I use the word madness in a sense of delightful abandonment.
There's sort of descriptions of the site being, a beautiful site with a lovely vista, and which is partly why this institution was kind of built here, really, so that people could come and just rest and relax. But also there was this kind of movement towards keeping people busy. So it's sort of the beginning of even that sort of idea of like the men's shed that you have nowadays, where, if people are just sitting around doing nothing, their kind of mental state can kind of come undone, I guess. So there was this kind of drive to put people within occupations so that they could settle their minds down.
My initial point of departure was to immediately engage collaborators. The content was very broad. There was lots of previous history to kind of uncover and unearth. And with that began this fantastic journey, which was titled Capital City. Point Heathcote was initially flagged as the actual location for Perth to be erected upon. And so I guess my approach was to imagine, what if Point Heathcote was indeed the capital city site? And we started looking at previous history, including Governor James Stirling, who made a landing here and who came to the Point Heathcote, had a look around, didn't find it appropriate and left again. The exhibition was presented in a very museological kind of way, with artifacts, with sponges, with kind of old spearhead we had collected and represented. So, it's a bit like having expectations of a place, but actually discovering new meaning out of it and maybe feeling re-inspired about a space. I felt excited. I felt like a pioneer, like, someone discovering and exploring new cultural meaning, and to be able to somehow bring that through interpretation and to share that with the audience here around Perth was very exciting, and maybe to bring new meaning to this place or where we live.
I was really interested in the history of the site as a mental health facility. And that really spoke to me once I was given heaps and heaps of research material, which was great. It was really helpful. And particularly I was interested in when it was first founded, and 1829 and the kind of treatments that were used at the time, and the purpose of the site and the differences in the treatments and the ideas behind mental health during that time. For me, it was a really amazing opportunity to play and experiment and engage with the space, and at the end of all of that, actually be giving a gallery space in which to show your work, to raise your profile, as well as to, I guess, really go outside of your comfort zone and start to look at other mediums and look at other techniques and processes in which to, you know, express your story or narratives through.
I came here and had a walk along the river, and when I looked back up at the site, there was a tiny strip of Banksia woodland, very degraded, but when I then looked at some historical information about this site, that, strangely enough, that tiny strip of vegetation had never been cleared. It seemed to me to be a really interesting place to begin thinking about what remnant vegetation meant in the Perth area, because it's extraordinarily biodiverse. Triggered things in me that made me realise it would be really good to raise awareness of the bushland that existed here. When you do research for that long, you get so much material. You can't possibly use it all, so I have a lot of material that feeds into other ideas and other exhibitions. That's what a good residency will do.
That idea of it being a place of unease connected to a suburb was attracting me to the idea. I started walking around the suburb. I thought at first it'd be an exhibition of paintings and drawings, because that's the medium that I'm more comfortable with. So it started with basic sketching around the suburbs, not really knowing what I was looking for, but I really thought it was going to be multiple views of Heathcote Point as a drawing and painting exhibition. But it became more convenient to start to photograph and film, still thinking I'd take that back to the studio and complete paintings. But after a while I ended up with quite a stockpile of photographs that I would scroll through looking for images that would carry an idea, and realised that I was getting closer and closer to being a bit of a voyeur around the suburb. And that's when I realised I was actually doing a project already. I didn't have to take it to the studio and change it anymore, I just had to hone down on that idea.
I was really excited to be, and very kind of humbled and surprised, to be honest, to be approached to do Tilt. I was really stoked. I was really stoked, and I was really excited about the possibility of responding to a site, a specific site and somewhere which I didn't have really any relationship with. The thing that really triggered me was reading a lot of old newspaper articles. I came across an article about the site of the old Majestic Hotel had been bulldozed, and there was kind of, loitering going on, complaints from the community about, youth loitering and doing burnouts in the area. I'd been interested in this idea of kind of burnouts as this kind of abstract kind of mark making, this, you know, on an aesthetic level, but hadn't really thought about, well, what's that about, you know, maybe conceptually and historically. And so I kind of thought, you know, linking it, thinking about, you know, Heathcote as this site where Australia Day is celebrated, but also a site that has, you know, that's kind of has you know, great significance to the Noongar people in this area, and the kind of irony of that, and this idea of burnout. So I kind of like the idea of the burnout as kind of a post-colonial marker, you know, like a marking of territory.
In some ways, I've always had a sort of passion for embedded history and relationships of kind of spatial history to different situations, and yet also a kind of skepticism about this whole notion of a singularity of history, and a kind of a sense that its places have an inscription within them of a particular story. And, you know, Heathcote's a place of many stories, you know. So it was quite interesting to start delving into how one might respond. All the work had a very formal structure and a very deliberate intent, and it was really about reconfiguring the spatial dynamics in the space that I was given. So it was a great opportunity to reinvent the gallery space as a kind of installation of minimally constructed artworks.
There's never been an Indigenous artist do the tilt, and I thought it's such a significant place, and I thought everybody else has given their perspective on what the place is about and what the place meant, and the foundation stone is in the Noongar people. So I just thought, okay, well, here's an opportunity to inform the wider community about the site. It's about it being this amazing place, which is a place of children, where obviously the kids used to play. There were lots of waterways through there. There were creeks coming off the point. It was an amazing place. And the reason why I wanted to focus on what it used to be is because it's gone, because it's all gone. So I want to bring it back, almost like a memory. It's about memory, really, cultural memory.
Projects like Tilt, I always say this, they're like the litmus test of our society. They sort of reflect us.
Yeah, their place is reflected back at them in really different and interesting ways.
It's an opportunity for artists to sort of develop their ideas.
It's such a rich space, and so there's lots of food for thought, lots of stories, lots of research material to really, you know, sink your teeth into.
I feel honoured to be one of the people who's been invited.
A very important program, I think, in the calendar of events in Perth.
You know, because you're showing in a public gallery and not a commercial gallery, it's not this pressure to kind of, I don't know, make a certain kind of work or appeal to a certain kind of audience, but you're really appealing to a wider public audience.
So you become, you know, sort of a temporary custodian of the content and knowledge that's here, and then you as a legacy leave behind your story in response to that. So I think it's a wonderful experience for both the audience and the artists involved, and we need more of that.